Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general looking for the lesson reading for Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of December. I hope you are well. I'm using the Llewellyn Tarot for you today. Now, I did these readings solidly for 2 years. They're looking for the lesson readings, and I actually mothballed them back in summer because I needed to create a bit of space for myself. But I decided I would bring them back as a Christmas present for you, just for this month. I don't know what will happen in July, but for December they're here at least anyway. And I'll be releasing the 3 signs as per each element on every Friday on the run up to Christmas Eve. So it's water signs today. And if you haven't seen these readings before, let me explain just for a second how they work. So I believe that there is wisdom or a lesson contained in every experience or interaction that we have if we are open to seeing it, and too often we are not because we get bogged down with the drama and the minutiae of all the sorts of situations. And so this is an exercise in perspective. It's about taking your eye from where it is right in front of you and kind of lifting it to see where it is that you are going, because I feel like it's often a little easier to navigate through what can be pretty challenging energy if we know where we are going, if we know what the end result is. So, and to that end, what I'm going to do is going to pull 3 cards for your current energy, and it's going to act like an energetic snapshot, like here is where you are. The next 3 cards will be why are you there, right? And it could be for any sort of reason. It could be trying to close something up from your life. It could be getting you to embrace something in your life. It could be just showing you something about who you are, giving you some sort of insight there. And to be honest, it could be all 3 at the same time. We won't know until the cards hit the table. And then what we'll do is we'll finish with 3 cards of advice. I'm going to try and keep these very short, so I won't be pulling any clarifiers. But yeah, exercise in perspective. So, I should just remind you as well that I've done 6-month overviews for each of the signs running from January to June 2023. There's a link for that in the description box if you are interested. Or you could come over to Circle, which is my private community, the Order of the Phoenix. The link's in the description box for that too. So, let's have a look and see where Scorpio is at right now, please. We have the Sun, the very first card out. We have the Magician. One more card, please. And fuck me, where did that go? Right, and we've got the 5 of Swords in reverse. So, King of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. I'm going to flip that around so you can see what I'm looking at. We've got the Sun, which is Leo, Magician, which is, Gemini, Virgo, however you read it. And then we've got the 5 of Swords in reverse. And I like this for you a great deal, Scorpio, because because there's such a high level of conscious activity that is going on here. I mean, for me, the Sun is consciousness, where the Moon is the subconscious. It can talk to lots of other things as well, but generally speaking, that's one of the first things to go to. But it is also a card of positivity. And, this might be something new to you. This might be something that you're really experimenting with at the moment. But I love the fact that it's here with the Magician, because this is a secondary card of conscious action, right? It's combining intent with the elements in order to create the kind of life for yourself that you want, right? It's because that's what manifestation is at the end of the day. I like the fact that the 5 of Swords is in reverse, because when it's in its upright like this, it can talk about all sorts of kind of grim things. We can see verbal sparring, arguments that you might be having with people. Depending on which character you are in the card, you can either be somebody who is saying anything to win, right? Experiencing some sort of Pyrrhic victory. Or you could be one of these in the background where you've kind of been fucked over and you've just gone, do you know what, this isn't fucking worth it anymore, and you're walking away. Like, that's a strong... It's a strong energy of self-worth and whatnot, but there's been a cost to it. That's the energy that we get with this card. But another way of looking at it is the kind of cognitive loops that we get stuck in, right? Whether that's as a result of conditioning or whatever, where we think in the same small loop over and over again, and we don't realize that there's a way of thinking outside of that. We don't break that cycle until something happens that jars us enough to be able to go, well, holy shit, why did I think like that? When the card turns up in the reverse, it's a stabilization of that inherently unstable energy. And so you might find, well, ever was it thus, Scorpio, right? I was going to say, you might be finding that you are the grounded one at the moment in everybody that you know. You're the one with your feet firmly planted on the ground. You're the one who knows what you think, and you're the one who's not afraid of saying it. But then I remembered that I was talking to a Scorpio, and, you know, that is actually one of your defining traits, although you have in the past got stuck into some pretty heavy cognitive loops. So you're just not being able to see past this loop that has been a conditioning, a response to conditioning from childhood. So in some ways it feels to me like you're breaking out. And I mean, let's not forget here, we've got some pretty hefty major arcana energy on the table. It's pretty heavy for where you are right now, even though they are very good and positive cards, you know. It's quite a powerful position to be in, and particularly if you are paying attention to your mind. And this is what I think it is, Scorpio. I think you're paying very close attention to your mind, and you're paying very close attention to what you do too. I think one of the problems, it's one of the reasons why time seems to go faster when you're an adult, is because you do so many things on autopilot, right? There isn't that newness that seems to make the world stretch out in front of you. Like days seem to last, you know, forever when you're a small child. It's because there's so many new things going on. There's so many things that you need to process. The mind gets lazy as we get older. But I feel like you are so engaged with what is going on around you at the moment, with what you're doing, with what you're thinking. You've taken yourself fully off autopilot. And now it seems to me like it's exposing things. It's exposing, you know, possibly a change in what it is that you want to manifest for your future, because I feel like that has changed in the last few months. And that could be quite a dramatic change, or it could be quite a subtle one. But certainly there's been a corresponding change in thinking, or maybe, you know, chicken and the egg, which one came first. But you've taken yourself off autopilot. And it feels exploratory now to you. It's almost like we're pushing the edges of your consciousness. Like, what does this mean? But why? You know, Scorpios expend a lot of energy, or have historically expended a lot of energy in, you know, we've talked about this kind of web that you create, where you sit in the middle of it and you think about all of the different eventualities that could happen from a person doing this or that, and then how you would respond to it, and then how they would respond to it. And so you end up with this huge fucking web here, where nothing is ever a surprise, because you don't like to be surprised in the first instance, right? Nothing is ever a surprise, because at some point, at some level, you have engaged with the possibility that this might happen at some point, right? So there's that familiarity there. But as we have also talked about at times, that's somewhat of a trauma response. And what I'm feeling is that this is kind of, this hypervigilance is almost starting to melt away a little bit in favour of this kind of more present energy of, what am I doing? Where am I going? What am I doing right now? Where am I going? And Scorpios quite often live quite far in the future. And I think that a lot of Scorpios didn't realise that that's what they were doing for the longest time. But now everything seems to be coming into the here and now. Whether it's how you change the way that you think, how you change the way that you behave, or what it is that you even want from your life moving forwards. Because I feel like it's all been in a bit of a state of flux for you this year. And you seem to be mastering it. I like that very much. Let's move these up a little bit. So let's get some cards to see why you are in this energy in the first place. I mean, I feel like we've answered that already. It's pretty clear to see what the benefits of this would be. But let's see what the cards have to say. What have we got here? We've got the Knight of Swords. There's Scorpio in this energy. We've got the Ten of Swords. And we've got the Temperance card. I think that states it beautifully, actually. So we've got the Knight of Swords, which deals with the transmission of information. So it can be your thoughts and the way that you speak to yourself. And I think that that's huge, particularly if you are being very present now and you are looking at what has been, previous cognitive loops, previous patterns of thinking that were quite difficult to break out of. That is really cool, right? Let's free up this information highway so that all the information can come through, not just what has been filtered by the it's the filters of trauma that you've put over things for years and years and years, so that you've been able to deal with stuff. It feels like all those filters are kind of one by one being removed, and so there's more information coming through to you here, and you can be more discerning about it. You can be more present in your decision making in the here and now. But it's also about the way that we communicate with other people, and the Scorpios are notoriously private. They don't say stuff very often. I haven't often come across Scorpios who would even volunteer advice, actually. You tend to wait to be asked for these sorts of things. But it means that you're very used to being quiet. And I think that that's something that's kind of changing a little bit, right? It feels like you're finding your voice. And particularly with regard to trauma and betrayal and hurt and all these things. I'm not saying that, you're hunting people down and presenting them with the evidence of how they've traumatized you in the past. No, far from it. It's the space beyond that where you come into this state of healing here. Like, this is something that you know really, really well. That Ten of Swords there. It would probably want to be one of the defining cards of the Scorpio experience, I would say. Whether just in youth, it's always in childhood, but often in adulthood too. Like, you understand what that means, but you are now at a point where you are moving beyond it, and every little bit of a stabilizing effect that you can have on your own Five of Swords, and that work is never done, by the way. There's always something more that you can do. The stronger your ability to be able to, it seems to me, communicate that to other people. Though there are a few signs that I feel are healers innately. Yeah, so absolutely the water signs, and it is your ability to be able to understand things on an emotional level, on a level where sometimes words are pointless. Words don't really exist. I think words can be quite restrictive sometimes, actually. When it comes to a feeling, there it is. It's about emotional vocabulary, Scorpio. Thank you. It's emotional vocabulary. So there are a lot of signs, most of the other signs, if you're not a water sign or, if they're not a water sign, struggle to put words to the feeling that they have. They struggle to make sense of the emotions that they have. And because this is your natural state, to feel everything so fucking deeply that it's amplified by, to the nth degree, part of what you're doing is learning to put words to that. And honestly, the beautiful part of that, Scorpio, is that this is now giving you an opportunity to be able to help people sort that out for themselves. I mean, this sense of you being here to help people is really, really strong. Never thought I'd see the day where Scorpio was being of service, but don't mean that in a shitty way, but you've always been quite apart from the zodiac. You prefer to be in the shadows, and this seems to me to be you preparing to step out into the light and also find your voice when it comes to articulating this process here. And so very important as it will be. It's incredibly important now, but it will be increasingly more important during 2023. But there's a lot that it says about you too, Scorpio, in so much as you are even willing to go there. I've often said when you do tarot reading, it's certainly the way that I do it, at least anyway, there's a sense that, you know, you look into the abyss and the abyss looks back. There's that point of connection. If you can, you know, reach into somebody's psyche and say that I see this in you, and this is why you feel like that, and this is why it's X, Y, and Z. That person can look back at me and know that I understand that because I have experienced it. It is necessarily a kind of vulnerable spot for both of us to be in. And if I were not open to that, I don't think that I would be able to read for people in the way that I do. And there's something about the way that you are stepping up here in that same way. When you open your voice and you speak with authority on something that you know really, really well, people look at you and go, they've experienced that. Now that would have upset you a long time ago, because you don't want people to know about that sort of stuff, but you've transcended beyond that experience. You've transcended beyond the feeling that you have about that and the need to keep everything quiet and dark, keep all the information away. It's like, well, actually I've got a shit ton of information and it's here to be shared because it can help, it can heal. This is tremendous stuff, Scorpio. Right, let's get some cards of advice for Scorpio, please. We have the Page of Pentacles. Page of Pentacles, the Queen of Swords, and the Eight of Wands. I mean, yeah, be prepared to start having some conversations. Now, like, you're not one for small talk anyway, but these feel like deep and meaningful conversations where you begin the process of helping other people unravel what's going on in their head. This sense of others has been coming through so strongly for you for months now. You know, this here to me feels like a really clear perspective where you are helping people unpack and process stuff. Now, you don't have to be doing this as a job. Like, you don't have to be like, I don't know, a psychologist or somebody practicing some sort of spiritual or healing modality. This could just be the kind of willingness that you have to sit with friends and really go deep on something. Page of Pentacles here. But it's taken this initiatory step of you changing where your focus is, not living over there, but living right here in the here and now, and not being afraid to open your mouth and let people see into where you have been and what you have experienced. Because the only way that you're going to help them to start to sift through this is in that action of being open. It's your starting place here. But this two-way conversation that we see in the Eight of Wands is really, really important. You might find in the month of December that you have one or two people coming to you and being like, can I talk to you about something? And it's touching something that you know really well. So where you might have sat before and gone, that sounds hard, and not given anything away, this time you might be, I've been exactly where you are. I've been exactly where you are. I understand exactly how you feel. Because you always did. But the difference is, it's about the freedom to allow the words to come out so that they can be perceived by other people. You know, your psychic abilities are pretty much top-notch and inbuilt, Scorpio. But what other people take from you in that sort of situation is very, very little. Even if they are, you know, very, very sensitive, it is difficult to read a Scorpio. And with that in mind, and knowing that there are things that you have that are helpful to other people, the only way that you can really transmit that is through your voice. It seems like December's all about that for you. So, I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget about the 6-month overviews. If you're interested in those, link is in the description box. Come over and join us on Circle if you would like to do that, because it's full of top-notch people who are absolutely awesome. And there's all sorts of interesting conversations going on over there at the moment. So, know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.